All right. Well, hello, everybody. I hope we're all tuning in to Tea with Jess. I haven't done the cast to Facebook Live in a while, so I'm hopeful this is working just fine because we have with us today Andrea Johnson, who's the author of Poetic Justice. So I'm really excited to have you here. Congratulations on your debut novel.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's a wonderful feeling. And I've already gotten a few reviews. So I'm excited that people are liking the book already.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I had the honor of reading an early copy. It's about a Delaware court reporter or stenographer would be the correct word, Victoria Justice, and she takes on a fascinating case based on a real life case with lots of twists and turns. But tell us as much as you want to about your book.
Well, the inspiration came from my own dealings with the Delaware court system. I was a stenographer there for 4 years, 5 years, 4.5 years. And so I thought it would be an interesting occupation for a cozy mystery because I hadn't seen any amateur sleuths with that particular profession. And it's one where you have the beauty of being right beside law enforcement, but without all of the knowledge. So you have the same sort of footing as the audience in the sense that you don't quite know what's going on, but the profession and the people around her allow her to solve the crime a little more easily than perhaps someone who's doing something like owning a bake shop, although we know that those bakers can solve a mystery just as fast as anyone. So
right, yeah,
that's where the inspiration came from.
Yeah, I loved it because I've never read a novel from the point of view, mystery or not, from the point of view of a court stenographer. So I really, like you say, I liked being there, like with her, and just in a mystery, you want a good mystery, but it's also the excitement of, kind of being with people that have jobs or whatever that you personally never would, and you get to learn something new. So I really loved that. And I have to confess, I have never been to Delaware. So,
Most people haven't.
Yeah. Well, but it made me want to go to Delaware. I was really fascinated by the water elements and just the small town. So tell us a little bit about the setting, because I really enjoyed the setting.
Well, yeah, I think that is actually one of the, and I'm glad you pointed that out. I do think it's honestly one of the things that helps make the book unique because it's based in Delaware, but the eastern shore of Delaware, the Delmarva Peninsula. So you have the Chesapeake and Delaware Bays there, as well as the Delaware River. And so that lifestyle comes into play. The eastern shore of Delaware, the eastern shore of Maryland, the eastern shore of Virginia, they're very different from the other counterparts in the inland part of those states. There's a whole different culture. It's a rural area with an agricultural and seafaring community. So I tried to bring that into the story. And I also tried to bring in a lot of local customs. People who are familiar with that area know that there are things like harness racing and Return Day, which is actually something that's focused on very heavily in the first book. Return Day is a festival that happens right after the election. This particular Return Day happens after a presidential election. So we do get that community setting coming in and trying to have a bipartisan situation. And then, of course, all HE double hockey sticks breaks loose. And so I really wanted to try to bring sort of some of the things that make Delaware unique to the book. So as you say, the reader gets the feeling of, I want to visit there, or I want to come back and read this book again.
Yeah, very much so. And you mentioned, a baker earlier. You have a wonderful bakery in your book that I want to go to. Is that based on a real bakery, or did you just come up with the bakery of your dreams?
It's based on a real bakery that was there at the time and my slight love of a New York-based tea company And I believe, I haven't been there in decades, but I believe it's called Tea and Sympathy.
Okay.
But at the time that I worked at the courthouse in the particular town in which I've set it, well, I should back up a little bit. The book is set in a fictional town in Delaware, Bickerton, Delaware. But where I worked in Delaware, Georgetown, Delaware, there was an actual bakery across the street from the courthouse. And so I based it on that in the sense that that place had some delicious, delicious sweets. But I
Mm-hmm.
based the actual look of the place more on Tea and Sympathy in New York, because that is meant to be more like an English drawing room. And that's how I described Cake and Kettle, which is what I call my place. That's how I described Cake and Kettle in the book, looking like an English drawing room. But their sweets, their scones, their lemon cake at the place, the real place in Delaware that was there at the time. It's actually no longer there, but it
Oh,
was there at the time. Um, I based it on their food.
oh,
So,
well, you bring it to life in your book for sure. And I also loved the sort of the thematic elements of the book of sort of overcoming past haunts, facing your deepest fears. Uh, Certainly through Victoria, I felt that came out in her. I don't want to give away too much, but I'm thinking of some particular scenes that I'm looking forward to people enjoying that still stand out to me. So, so what drew you to writing mystery genre in particular, and some of these themes as well?
well, I focused on mystery because it's something that I read a lot of, and I learned quite early in my education. Um, Thanks very much to you as well. I will give you a nod to that, that you need to write what you love. So I focused on mystery for that reason first. But um, the reason why I added some of those more psychological elements to what is essentially in its formatting a cozy mystery is because, like I said, this is based in a location that is near the water. And I wanted to not just have that be because I'm familiar with that. I wanted to actually play into the heart of the story. So I figured putting a character who has a water phobia in a town that is on the water brings a really clear conflict from the very beginning of the story. And so you have something that's very meaty, very good to work with, that makes the audience lean forward a little bit from the very beginning. So there was a lot of thought put into that, more so toward a story aspect on the end of this, the phobia than anything else.
Yeah, and it gives us right away something to feel empathy towards her for, and to root for her. And yeah, and I love it when a novel has sort of unity of design. You know, it takes a while to get there, I think, as we're writing and we're revising and editing, but you know, everything weaves together beautifully in poetic justice, from the setting plays into the character, plays into the mystery and the plot. So I really loved that. So you referenced thanking me. I have to stand up for a little bit and show off this gorgeous T-shirt that I'm wearing. Scooby Natural, people. Scooby Natural. I am a big supernatural nerd, and loved Scooby Doo as a kid. And Andrea was one of my students when we were both at Seton Hill University in Pennsylvania. And when she found out my incredible love of all things supernatural, she did not laugh at me. Instead, she gifted me with this awesome T-shirt. So I would like to hear, you know, about what drew you to attending Seton Hill. Well, what drew you to earning an MFA? What were the pros and cons for you, and what drew you to that as a writer?
Oh, well, let me start with the pros and cons because I don't think there are any cons. There was just
Oh,
absolute pro to going to Seton Hill. I know a lot of people say, well, if you want to be a writer, then write and read. You don't really need that MFA. But I don't think that my writing, my commitment to it, or my understanding of the particular genre I chose, which is cozy mystery, would be the same if I had tried to do that on my own. So the program at Seton Hill drew me to it, but is also unique in the sense that you get a wonderful mentor like yourself. As soon as you enter the beautiful grassy lawn of the university. And you also are put in a situation where you work directly with your peers. So you get a peer group who understand not only the type of work that you're interested in doing, but share that same passion for it. So I was drawn to Seton Hill for that reason. And I would highly recommend a program like that because A, you're building a community, B, you're getting a strong backbone in what it is that you want to write about and study. But then you also now have this degree where you can say, I'm an expert, or at least I'm building an expertise toward this, and you can teach. You can write for magazines. And I've actually had the benefit of doing all of that. There is a teaching pedagogy in the program that allows you to jump right into teaching when you graduate. So I've taught English composition, I've taught English literature, I'm currently teaching African American history. I've written for Lit Reactor, I've written for Pop Sugar. I just wrote a couple of articles. Well, I wrote one article and I'm being asked to write another for Crime Reads. So
Oh, nice.
it's, yes. So I feel like I don't think those doors would open necessarily without the MFA because there are a lot of writers out there. So, you know, we got to be honest with ourselves. There are a lot of talented people out there, and you need something that's going to distinguish you from the pack. And I think the MFA really helps. And the program at Seton Hill in particular, I think is an excellent one because you get that community feeling, but you can also work on it for the most part from home. It is a low res program. So you're only there 4 or 5 weeks in the year, and you have that flexibility to work full time and still get that degree. So,
Yeah. And Vicki Thompson was your other mentor. So
yes.
shout out to her. So
Mhm.
I think, so I don't have an MFA, but I remember several times feeling a little jealous of the students because I found myself thinking, good grief, they're getting compacted in 2.5 or so years, but I spent literal decades figuring out. But you know, there are all kinds of different paths. But I do take your point well that you know having community so crucial to being an artist, being a writer. That intense study and then the time to you know do your own writing. So fantastic. I wanted to ask you about how you balance. You're balancing a lot of things. You mentioned Pop Sugar. How do you balance writing pieces for Pop Sugar, Crime Reads, these shorter pieces with and quicker turnaround times with writing, you know, a novel about once a year at this point for you, right? I want to read the next book already. I've read the first book. I'm ready for the second one.
Oh, glad. I'm so excited. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, it's a matter of discipline, really. Like you said, one thing that helps, the turnaround times for the magazine articles are a lot shorter. Pop Sugar in particular, if they give you an assignment as opposed to you pitching it, they want it within 24 hours. So
Whoa,
yes, so you have to be on your toes for
that's a
that.
lot of
And
tea, you know.
that is a lot of tea and a little bit of coffee on top of it.
Yeah.
But with the writing, you have to plug away every day if you're writing a novel. And, you know, there's a great book by Walter Mosley where he doesn't, it's called, I think, Write Your Novel in a Year, but he doesn't really focus on that per se as much as he focuses on the idea of discipline. And he says, look, if you just sit down and write 700 words a day, every day, you'll probably have a novel or two by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of discipline. Write early, write often. I try to do it the first thing I do when I get out of bed. That way I don't want to say it's done because that makes it sound like I don't want to do it. But like, I know that if the day ends up in calamity or emergency or running around having to focus on someone else, then the writing is taken care of.
Yeah.
And then you can move on. So
Yeah. You've sort of you've served the story. You've taken care of your passion, and yeah, you don't have that. Um, yeah, I don't like you were just saying. I don't want to say hanging over your head because that makes it sound like I don't want to do it.
mhm.
But you know, I feel a little like haunted, I guess, if I haven't done my writing first thing. I also like to write first thing. Um, just knowing, okay, that's done. I can keep going, but if I for some reason can't, or something comes up and I don't, then I did that. I did that much. Um,
Yeah.
so
And you can hold on to the story better when you do that. I mean, life is tough, so you might not be able to write every day, but if you do, then you're able to pull inspiration from the the muse, the universal subconscious, because the story is always
mhm.
being thought about in the back of your mind because you're working on it consistently. Whereas every other day, every 4 days, it's a little bit harder to immerse yourself back into the story.
Yeah, even if what you can do is 100 words some morning,
Yeah.
which is what, maybe half a page. At least I have a little sticky note that says keep the momentum going. Which is a
Yeah.
reminder to me, like, you're going, keep going. I don't run, but I imagine that it would be hard. But I imagine that if I did, it would be hard to start again, if you stopped and didn't do it for 2 weeks or what have you. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Any other profession, consistency is key, right?
right.
Bodybuilder, consistency is key. A doctor, your knowledge compounds on it's compound knowledge. If you don't get the chemistry, then you're not going to understand the biology, or vice versa. So any
Exactly.
other profession, we think of it that way, where we have to work on it a little bit
Yeah.
every day. Why not with writing?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good way to put it. So tell us, your book was scheduled to come out tomorrow, but but it's well, printing in the time of COVID, very complex. So tell us when you think it will come out. Is the ebook available? And tell us, like, where we can, find you on social media and your website and all that. Where can we buy
Oh,
your book?
okay. Well, you can buy the book anywhere books are sold. So that would be Amazon, Barnes and Noble, IndieBound, Bookshop.org, your local bookstore, etc. As far as when it comes out, there's a slight mystery to that. And since we're mystery lovers, I hope that you guys hang with me on that. From what I understand, the ebook will come out a little bit earlier. So it will come out October 6th.
Okay.
Still off from tomorrow's date, but earlier than the hard copy, which is going to actually come out at the end of November. So November 24th, that's a Tuesday. That's what we're looking at currently. And that's mainly because we're having a little slowdown with the printers due to the close down during the COVID period.
Right.
We will also be having a book launch regardless of where within that November 24th week the book comes out, on November 30th through Browse About Books. So that will
Okay.
happen on November 30th. And hopefully the book will come out the week before November 24th so people can read it and ask questions at that launch event. You can find me on Instagram at ajthenovelist.com. You can find me on Facebook at Andrea Johnson. And you can find me on Twitter at AJ the Novelist. And my website is ajthenovelist.com. So social media, AJ the Novelist, but the website is the .com. There you go.
Okay. AJ the
And
novelist.
Goodreads.
And
Goodreads. I
Goodreads.
want
Oh,
friends
yes.
on Goodreads. So
Yes.
please visit me there.
Yeah. And people should pre-order your book. And what's nice is that's great timing for holiday shopping. I mean, we just solved people's holiday shopping conundrums. They just should order your book and give it to everybody.
They
That's
should.
my
They should order, actually, they should order my book for Election Day, since it is actually set during the election period. It actually
yes.
takes place the Monday before our our current election, you could say.
Yeah,
So,
that's right. Yeah, they should order it then, and they should
yes.
read it, during that. So, like, do everybody vote? Uh, but then once you've voted, read Andrea's novel.
Yep, there you go.
That's my advice.
You'll do your
Thank
civic
you.
duty.
That's your civic duty, people. Well, thank you. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Oh, golly. Well, thank you for having me. I think we jumped right in because we were talking beforehand. So I really appreciate you having me on. And it's great to see you because I haven't seen you in such a long time.
I
So,
know it has been a while. Hey, we will cross paths in person at some point. Probably at a mystery convention. I'm going to hold that thought.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Bye.
Bye.